Hi, this is Brad Willis. I thought I'd put together a video on Croisieres de France for Americans specifically, and the reason I'm doing this is because I've booked a cruise on Croisieres de France, which I'm going to call CDF from here on out because it's easier for us Americans to say. And I had a hard time finding out a lot of information on them because they are a French cruise line. And so I thought I'd put together a quick video for primarily Americans, but I suppose for any English speaker who might have an interest in this cruise line and would like to maybe learn a little about it. Now, as I mentioned, I've booked a cruise on CDF, but I haven't actually cruised yet. So what I'm going to explain to you is I'm going to answer some questions you might have about this cruise line based on the best of my knowledge, what I've been able to gather, talking to people and reading and so forth. So I don't guarantee the accuracy of the information, but I think for the most part it will be accurate. If after the video you find any errors or omissions, or you have something that you would like to add to it, feel free to add a comment or question to the remarks section here on YouTube. Now I'm starting off, as you can see, with their website, and if you visit it, of course you can Google Croisieres de France, or you could just go CDF Cruises. You're probably going to see it if you go to Google or Bing or your favorite search engine. And if you are an English speaker like me, one thing you may notice is that it's in French, and there's not an English option so far as I can see. And that is because they are a French cruise line. And so it makes it a little bit more tricky. But let's just go through the questions, and I have some that I've prepared, and hopefully it'll give you some of the answers to some things you might be wondering about CDF. So first question is, well, what is Croisieres de France? And the answer is it's a French cruise line, and they are owned by Pullmantur, which is a Spanish cruise line, and in turn they are owned by Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. So it is Royal Caribbean is the parent, but it's a division of the Spanish company Pullmantur. And another question, why is their website only in French? And the answer is because they cater to the French market. The great majority of their passengers are going to be French speakers. They're probably going to be French citizens. Some people may speak a little bit of English, but most of the passengers are going to speak French. Next question, can I get Royal Caribbean Cruise Line Crown and Anchor perks or credits based on my past RCCL cruising experience? And how about a shareholder credit? What if you have stock like I do? And this is not a recommendation for or against the stock. I have to say that because I'm actually in the securities business. But the answer to that question is no, you're not going to get shareholder credit. It is possible that the travel agent or the cruise line itself offers credit on certain cruises, but you're not going to get any Crown and Anchor or shareholder credit. Question, will they speak English on board? And the answer, as I understand it, is announcements will be in French primarily, then Spanish, then English, in that order. Most of the passengers are going to be French or French speakers, and they will probably not speak English. However, many of the crew members may speak English. Now, one thing I've found is it's always nice to maybe learn a few words just in case, or phrases. For example, I might not even be pronouncing it correctly. Parlez-vous anglais is, do you speak English? And I think you'll find a lot of the crew members do. Also, when it comes to the French, I don't know how much interaction you'll have with the French passengers, especially if you don't speak French, but I've found that the French do appreciate it if you try to speak at least a little bit of their language, and sometimes they will chime in and say, oh yes, I do speak some English, But in any event, the passengers will probably not speak English. Many of the crew members, I would think, will. Next question, when are the dining times? As you may know, Europeans tend to eat a little bit later than Americans, so you're going to find that the seating times are a little bit later on this cruise as well. The early seatings are typically, and you could find some variance, but on the one I booked, typically it's going to be at 7 p.m., and then you'll have a later seating that will be at 9:15 p.m. So normally I prefer the later seating, but actually because it's kind of late on these cruises, I'm going to go with the early. I think I'll just deal with that, and I don't want to have to be out of there at 10 p.m. Is there anytime dining? And my understanding is no, there's not. Now here's one that'll interest some of you. I've heard the ships are all inclusive. Is this true? And the answer is yes. Alcohol is included in the price of the cruise. You can purchase some of the premium brands, but you're going to have reasonable quality liquors, beer and wine, and other drinks and cocktails will be complimentary. Again, if you want something a little bit more premium, a little bit more upscale, you'll pay for it. But you know, I think for the most part you're probably going to find something that you like. And if they don't have your favorite brand, I guess you'll pay up a little bit. Now, where can I, if I'm an American, where can I book a cruise on CDF or Croisieres de France? The only company I know of, and I have to say I'm not affiliated in any way with them, so they're not paying me to do this, but it's Vacations to Go, and their website is vacationstogo.com, and I think they have probably, regardless of your travel agent, etc., they have a really good search engine when you hit custom search and you go to that website. And one thing you may find if you do book through them is not every agent, as I understand it, at Vacations to Go has access to the itinerary for CDF. The first time I called, I got a woman who said, I don't see any of this. I told her about a cruise I had found on their website. She says, I don't see it. It's a mystery ship. It's vanished. And then I called another day, and I got a fellow that spoke English and French, and he did have access to all those itineraries, and he was able to easily book me. So just understand that not everyone, maybe during the week you might have better luck getting a hold of someone, but certainly tell them it's for a CDF or a Croisieres de France cruise. So Vacations to Go is the only one I know of. There could be others, but not many U.S. travel agents are going to be booking these cruises. So you probably can't just go to the person that you normally do, unfortunately. This is a little bit of an interesting comment, because I've got this a few times. I've heard the French are rude. Is that true? And I've only been to France once, and I had heard that before I left. And my experience is that it's not true. Pardon me for clearing my throat. It's not true. You know, the French, I felt, were very nice and very, very helpful. As I said a little bit earlier in this video, they would prefer that you not come in, both barrels blazing in English. And of course, if you're coming in as the cocky, gunslinging, ugly American USA #1, it doesn't always go over so great. Of course, on a cruise like this, who knows how much, frankly, you'll be interacting with the passengers anyway, because they are going to primarily be French speakers. But again, I think if you do want to at least try, maybe just learn a few very small phrases, and of course, be a little bit humble, right? Most of us Americans are, but we know that there's exceptions to that too. So, but when I was in France, I thought the people were very, very nice and very kind and very helpful. And so if you do interact with some of the French, I strongly suspect that you will have the same exact experience. Are tips included in the price of this cruise? The answer is interesting. Supposedly, yes, but I have read some instances where passengers were hit up for €72 at the end of the cruise. And they said, hey, I thought it was all-inclusive. Why am I being charged this? And in some cases, they were credited back. So I think the answer is yes. And if you are hit up for that, maybe it's something to bring up with the travel agent. This is one that I could be wrong on, but I do believe it is considered to be included. Next question. What's the food quality like on CDF? And I think the answer is it's going to be at least okay, and maybe very good. Maybe not great. Maybe not quite as upscale as you're going to get from some of the U.S.-based cruise lines, but I don't think you're going to go hungry, and I doubt you'll complain too much about the quality. You're going to have your usual breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Are you going to have lobster and that sort of thing? I don't think that it is complimentary. I believe, this has another asterisk next to it, what I believe, that there are certain things that you could pay a little extra for, but are you going to have generally some reasonable options for your meals? The answer, I believe, is yes, and I don't think you're going to go away hungry. You just won't have super extravagant food, but you are on a cruise ship, and my understanding is that the cruise food is going to be at least okay, if not better. How many ships does CDF operate? Currently, they operate 2, as I understand it. They operate the former Celebrity Zenith, and they also operate the former Celebrity Horizon. And these are older ships that have been retired by Celebrity, which, as you may know, is owned by Royal Caribbean, which is the parent of this company. So it's not surprising that they transfer it sometimes directly to CDF, sometimes it's gone, like for example with the Horizon, it went from Celebrity to Pullmantur, and then subsequently was repurposed for the French market with CDF. Now these ships were once 5-star ships, so in their day they were extremely nice. They have been updated, they have been refurbished, they are still older ships, so you're not going to get a 5-star experience. The ratings I've seen on most of these ships are around 3.5 stars, so if you're going in looking for a 5 or a 6-star type of an experience, you're probably not going to get it. If you're looking for a nice time at a good price, maybe something a little different, especially with the French atmosphere, yeah, you might well get it. And I think in life generally, what you get out of something has a lot to do with your attitude and expectations. If you think you're going to have a miserable time, you probably will. If you think you're going to have a great time, you probably will. What are the cancellation fees, and can I cancel if I have to without a charge? Well, I can't speak for every situation. I think they're all the same. I will tell you on my cruise what they are. If you cancel 61 days or more in advance, there's a $40 per person administrative fee. If you cancel between 31 and 60 days before the cruise, your cancellation charge is 25% of the fare. From 30 to 16 days, it goes up to 50% of the fare. From 15 to 8 days, it's 75% of the fare. And 7 days less, there's no refund. I think the request has to be made in writing, but I'm certain that your travel agent would be able to help you with that if, in fact, you had to cancel. What's the currency used on board? And the answer is it's the euro. Should you have some euros with you? Yeah, probably. Probably. You can. When I booked, they charged me in dollars, not in euros. I did book through vacations2go.com, but on the ship, everything's going to be in euros, from the slot machine to whatever you might do. It'll be charged in euro. There are credit cards also that you can use that don't have a currency translation or fee. I think Capital One is one of the cards that doesn't. I believe Discover doesn't. It may be that American Express doesn't. You might want to double check me on that. The fees usually aren't very large anyway when you're translating from a foreign currency to the U.S. dollar. But of course, the smaller the fee or non-existent fee, of course, that's a better. So I do recommend that if you're going to use your credit card, you find one like a couple of the ones I just mentioned that do not have a currency conversion fee. They'll bill you in dollars, and they'll just convert it over at presumably a fair rate. And also in some of the ports of call, you may well want to have euro. For example, one of the stops that I have is Martinique, and Martinique is technically it's part of France, right? Well, guess what their currency is? It's the euro. So can I use a credit card? Yeah, some places that take it, sure, but there may be other situations where they are not going to use credit cards, or they're not going to want them, and it's going to be real helpful to have some euro. So you might want to go to your bank before you leave, do a little bit of conversion into euro. I'm guessing there's options on the ship, but they may not give you a great conversion rate, but maybe they will. I don't know. Here's another question for you. I noticed that CDF visits ports that U.S. cruise lines often don't. Why is that? And I believe it's mostly due to language issues. Like I notice on my itinerary, they're visiting several places. I mentioned, for example, Martinique as an example, that are going to be mostly in France. And even using Martinique as a specific example, it's my understanding that they don't rely real heavily on tourism, so they, in terms of are there a lot of English speakers there, I think the answer is no. Are the cab drivers going to speak it? Probably not, or maybe a little bit. Will there be some people in there, in the island, for example, and I'm just using this as one example, that speak it? Sure. But I think that's the primary reason that they have a little bit different itinerary is due to language issues. And I guess this is the last one I have for now. I noticed that the port and the taxes are a little bit higher. The base price is real good on some of the CDF cruises, almost unbelievably good in some cases. It's cheap, but the port and the taxes are higher. Why is that? And I believe it's because it's a foreign cruise line technically. Even though they're part of Royal Caribbean, I believe the foreign cruise lines will charge you a higher rate. That's another one with an asterisk by it. I could be wrong, but I believe that is why. So that's all I've got for you. Just thought you might like to benefit from a little bit of my research. Again, as I mentioned, I have not cruised yet on CDF, and once I do, I probably will have another video and some comments and that sort of thing. But I had a heck of a time finding information on it, and again, you go to the website, and good luck if you don't read French or speak French. So I thought that perhaps I could put together a little information that might be helpful for someone who's an American that is considering cruising on CDF. So that's all I've got. As I mentioned before, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to add them to the remarks section here on YouTube. I do thank you for your time, and look forward to maybe seeing you on a CDF cruise one day.